Okay. Good evening, everyone. I, CA Gati Gupta, a practicing chartered accountant from Meerut, wholeheartedly welcome you all on the behalf of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, hoping our audience to be in pink state of health. So, members, today's session is about digital forensics, essentials of forensic accounting, to be delivered by two of the eminent speakers, Ms. Sejal Shibe and Dr. Vinay Saini. All the attendees are eligible to claim 3 unstructured CPRs at the conclusion of today's program. The Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, DAAB of the ICAI, was established in 2019 to guide the accounting profession in adopting digital technologies and to provide guidance and support to chartered accountants in the areas of digital accounting, assurance services, and related fields. The DAAB aims to develop and promote digital solutions and tools that can help chartered accountants in their work, such as automation of accounting processes, data analytics, and artificial intelligence. It also provides training and education to the members of the profession to help them develop the necessary skills and knowledge to use digital technologies effectively in their work. In addition to these initiatives, the DAAB also collaborates with other organizations and stakeholders to promote the adoption of digital technologies in the accounting profession and to ensure that the profession remains relevant and responsive to the changing needs of the business world. Proceeding further, let me quickly invite one of the most respected and revered chartered accountants of a fraternity, the chairman of this board, DAAB, whose name is a brand in itself, to share his words of wisdom, none other than CA Charanjot Singh Nandaji. Sir, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Gyati Madam. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Vinay Kumar Saini, Madam Sejal Shibe, C. Amit Gupta, Nisar from Technical Support, and Madam Gyati Gupta as the moderator of the session. A very good evening to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are yet back with another exciting session on Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. This session speaks largely on digital forensics, essentials of forensic accounting. I want to very candidly tell you that over the years, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has emerged as number 1 in forensic accounting. We do number of things for the first time. Your institute came out with guidance on remote audit way back on 20th March 2020 when the COVID had barely set up. We are the first under the aegis of DAP to come out with 23 forensic accounting investigative standards, first in the world. We are the first in the world to conclude a great World Congress. I want to tell you one thing very candidly, very simply. We were set up an Act of Parliament way back on 1st July 1949, even before the Constitution was put in. You're all aware that the Constitution to this great country was promulgated on 26 January 1950. The pertinent question that arises is, what prompted the Constituent Assembly to set up an Institute of Chartered Accountants of India when its own democratic setup was not in place? The answer is very candid, very simple, very forthcoming. They were looking for a disciplined band of soldiers to steer this country out of confusion. And there we are, the financial soldiers of this great country, people who are ultimately looking forward to create value and worth in a different perception. We are the financial soldiers of this country. But largely, we have now come up to a path where we need to encourage all fellow members to be technology compliant. I am reminded of a couplet which says, तारीखों में धीरे धीरे व्यतीत हो रहे हैं हम, तारीखों में धीरे धीरे व्यतीत हो रहे हैं हम, आज हैं लेकिन हर क्षण अतीत हो रहे हैं. The English version is that over the time we are getting older and older and saying goodbye to the prevalent, to the contemporary practices. And that is why your board thought it fit to come out with a very encouraging, ambitious program named Technology for Non-Technology Professionals. We have to understand one thing very candidly, that technology has to be put at the right stance. We all need to learn technology, and from a year from now, all CA firms need to be technology compliant, otherwise they will perish. Moving ahead, not only to make you compliant with technology, but to add a new practice area, forensics, particularly digital forensic, we thought fit to hold a session with two of the very revered speakers, Dr. Vinay Kumar Saini and Ms. Sejal Shibe. So I will not stand between you and the speakers. Rather, this is going to be a very exciting, very happening session. So over to CA Gyati Gupta, who hails from Meerut, to take the session forward. And I can promise you that we have so many such sessions in store for you. Every Friday you have a session. Please get involved into it. And in case you want to see it again, go to Digital Learning Hub. You'll find a recording of this session for time immemorial. Whenever you want to see, go refer that session and be honing your technical skills. Thank you. Thank you so much. Over to Madam Gyati. The dais is all yours now.
Thank you, sir. Your words fill us with energy and enthusiasm. Thank you, sir, for your words of enlightenment. It is always a pleasure to listen from you. Moving ahead, let me take an honor in introducing Ms. Sejal Shibe, who is going to be the first speaker for the session. Sejal ji is BE in Electronics and Telecommunication from Mumbai University, currently associated with CyberThreat as the Cybersecurity Project Manager. She has a good knowledge of cyber crimes and their modus operandi. She has also sound knowledge of cybersecurity and information security aspects. Besides this, she possesses training expertise in digital forensics and investigation tools. Her certifications include CEH, ISO IEC 27001 2013, Lead Implementer Program and Lead Auditor Program, ISMS Dual Certification Training. These heavy certifications are really something I'm totally unaware of. So, ma'am, you are warmly welcome to this platform of Chartered Accountants. Our audience is certainly looking forward to have valuable key takeaways from your session today. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gyati, for the lovely introduction. So, as she introduced me, I am Sejal Shibe. And let me start with the session today. I'll just share my screen. Let me know if it's visible.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yes, madam, very much. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we are here to discuss on digital forensics, essentials of forensic accounting. So basically, forensics accounting can be described as a combination of accounting and investigative techniques that are used to discover financial crimes. So it helps us to determine the frauds that have been committed, what pressures led to the crime, and what assets need to be recovered. So moving on, this is about me. I am the lead cybersecurity projects with CyberThreat, and I have expertise in managing end-to-end projects in cybersecurity education, awareness, and content for diverse SMB and MNC organizations. And I've been working with a lot of CXOs of various organizations to develop content to upskill and cross-train their internal teams. And I have also worked in developing two go-market strategy, branding for my tech OEMs, working in cybersecurity, risk management, and emerging technology space. And I have some knowledge on training expertise in digital forensics, investigation tools, and I do live hosting and virtual programs and trainings. And my certifications include CEH version 11, the lead implementer and auditor for the ISMS ISO 27001 2013. So that was about me. So before we move on to the forensics part, let me build up some context over here. Let's start with the emerging technologies. So the technologies that are currently developing or that are to be expected to be available within the next 5 to 10 years are expected to create significant social or economic effects, that is emerging technologies. The emerging digital technologies have generated a lot of new opportunities while creating new legal challenges, particularly related to copyrights, trademarks, patents, royalties, and licensing. So emerging technologies are these AI everywhere, it says, right? So AI, artificial intelligence, nothing new to us, right? It has always been on the rise, and AI is basically everywhere. The one example that I would like to give is, of course, we started with the assistants like Alexa, Siri, but no longer we are over there. We have developed quite a lot from that stage. AI is basically running everywhere in every field, every vertical nowadays. So one example I would like to give is that recently we were hiring here in Cyberfrat for one role, that is content creator role. But since the rise of ChatGPT and other GPT models, other chat AI models, we actually gave it a second thought and thought of not going ahead with that role. That is how AI is actually taking over jobs, and it is actually happening. And yeah, so the next thing that is on the rise is IoT, right? The pace of IoT is on the rise. Home automation, your office automation, a lot of things are happening in with IoT. So cars are also being automated, or Tesla and everything, right? So moving ahead, merged reality. So basically, these are some of the emerging technologies. Merged reality is one, the AR, VR, things, right? So one example would be this thing is so much developing that in future the kids who will be there, they will actually learn how to play outdoor games and playground games in their homes itself. Right? So that is how the merged reality works. Then comes these emerging technologies. Of course, we're having some effects on us, of course, like our bodies are out of sync. So basically, right, when we first started to travel by transportation, by cars, trains, buses, we used to feel motion sickness or nausea because our bodies were not used to it, right? And in the same way, you might have visited those AI, the VR, AR games, or you might have experienced that. So what happens is we don't usually go for these things for a longer period of time, right? We usually these things are very short for a shorter duration because these things have a toll on our bodies. But in the coming future, of course, more and more technology as it's developing, especially since the COVID era, the pandemic era, digital revolution is on the rise. So along with that, of course, maybe in the future, doctors will start prescribing medications to increase the oxygen levels in our blood or something, and then maybe we might be able to persist for a longer period of time with these kind of technologies. Moving ahead, there is augmented personal reality, wherein I'm not sure if you've watched the movie Pathaan in it, which there's a scene where there's actually a person, an image of a person, which actually looks very real, but it's not, of course, but that is how it works, the augmented personal reality. Then there's the privacy divide. A lot of people think that privacy is, very important, and it should be followed. Your encryption, your hashing, everything should be followed. But a lot of people are on the other side who don't think that should be followed with the evolving tech and social silos, right? So that is when we say is, let's say you're sitting on a dining table with your family having dinner. At the same time, you're texting your office colleagues or your friends who are not present in the room. And when you are in your office working, you're texting people outside of your office, right? So that has been happening a lot. We are not attending the people who are in front of us, but we are actually attending, we are giving priority to our mobile phones, to mobile devices, right? And at the last, there is big tech for all. So going forward, all of this, the emerging technologies will be managed by these big four, big tech companies who will actually manage your drones, your all the AI related applications, IoT, everything will be managed by these big tech. So that was about the emerging technologies. Moving ahead, I have one statement here that says IT is not a support function anymore. It has become a business enabler, right? So almost all companies face the challenge of making their business process function more smoothly and efficiently. But inefficient processes, of course, waste valuable time and money, but are often difficult to identify and hard to change. But with technology, process flows are altered with less effort. Of course, in the past, IT were often seen as merely a support function for business, but and helping employees with their technical issues and keeping the company's technology infrastructure running smoothly. However, with digital transformation and increasing your reliance on technology, IT has become much more than a support function. Nowadays, it has become a strategic business enabler that helps organizations drive innovation, streamline process, and enhance the customer experience. So, the example I would like to give here is a lot of businesses, startups started recently completely online. They're running online, like your Uber, your Zomato, even Cyberfrat, right? This webinar, without IT, of course, we won't be able to do all of these things, right? So that is the importance of IT. It's not a support function anymore. It's actually enabling businesses. But with more and more businesses depending upon IT, there is increase in cybercrimes, right? So it's going in proportion. I would actually like to show some really realistic figures to you here when I talk about cybercrimes. So that is 39 hackers attack in every 39 seconds on average. That is 22,244 times a day. So let's say that I've been talking here for, let's say, 8-9 minutes now, right? So you can just make out how many attacks might have actually took place in that time if you actually see this number, right? Crazy number. So when we say cyber attacks, cyber crimes, who is it caused due to? So 95% of the security breaches are actually caused by human error. So you might already know a famous saying that humans are the weakest link in security. So this number just proves that. And 43% of the breaches involve small businesses. So the small businesses or startups were not really into implementing a lot of heavy security solutions or your frameworks or guidelines. They are more prone to getting attacked or getting in such situations. So that is why the number 43%. And when we say cybercrimes or attacks, which is the biggest threat or the attack that has been going around, is your phishing attack. 56% of IT decision makers believe that phishing attacks are their top security threat. So phishing is basically when you receive, it can be actually done through emails or messages wherein you might see an email which you find is legitimate, but is actually not. And when you click on those links or those attachments, your device is corrupted or you have been compromised. And that's how phishing takes place. Then I have one banking verticals number over here that the cost of data breach in the banking industry was at $6.5 million. So these are some of the crime statistics which are on a global level. Right. So these stats just say that increase in cyber crimes has led to increase in the need of cyber forensics. So with that, we are on digital forensics with the context building, right? Just a minute. So digital forensics, when we say it is a branch of forensics, which of course is for the knowledge of collecting, analyzing, and just a minute, documenting, preserving the digital evidence related to computer crime for using it in a legal way. So it may be used in a variety of situations such as financial fraud investigations, intellectual property theft, and data breaches. For example, a CA may need to conduct a digital forensic investigation to uncover the evidence or to track the source of a financial crime. So digital forensics also involves the use of specialized tools and techniques to extract and analyze your electronic data, such as your emails, your chat logs, financial records, and other digital artifacts that can be used as an evidence in legal proceedings. So the ultimate goal is knowing what was done, when it was done, and who did it. So that is the major goal of digital forensics. So digital forensics, again, is a process of identifying, preserving, and analyzing, documenting digital evidence. The term digital forensics is used as a synonym for computer forensics, also called as cyber forensics. So it is used to investigate all the digital data storing devices such as USBs, your CD, DVD, SD cards, IoT devices, and backup tapes. All kinds of your devices come under the investigation part when we talk about digital forensics. It is also used to investigate cyber attacks such as ransomware, phishing, your distributed denial of service, that is your DDoS, SQL injection attacks, and other cyber attacks that causes commercial or reputational loss. It also includes acquiring data, analyzing data that is acceptable in the court of law. And digital forensics is considered a relatively new branch in the security domain that is, of course, becoming increasingly important with the proliferation of crimes and illegal activities in the cyberspace, in the digital space. So when we talk about digital forensics, what are the goals or what is the need, or when we say digital forensics? So I have some goals over here to discuss with you. So the first one would be finding legal evidence in computing devices and preserving its integrity in a way that is deemed admissible in a court of law. So, of course, when it comes to your legal procedures and findings, of course, the evidence needs to be preserved and its integrity, that is making sure your data or your information is not being tweaked or modified or manipulated. It should be intact as it was earlier discovered or identified. So that is, of course, the key important thing to note over here when it comes to it being admissible in a court of law. Then there is preserving and recovering evidence following court-accepted technical procedures. So there are a lot of aspects when it comes to presenting an evidence in the court of law, and preserving and recovering the evidence becomes very essential in doing so. Attributing an action to its initiator, identifying data leaks within an organization, accessing possible damage occurring during a data breach, what is the impact, what is the level of damage that the attack has actually created, that is important. Presenting the results in a formal report suitable to be presented in court, providing a guide for expert testimony in court. So these are some of the goals when we say of digital forensics. We'll of course discuss that in more detail. So when we say cyber crimes, how are actually computers used in cybercrime? So cybercrime, as you can see over here, can be divided into three main categories with regard to how the computing device was used to commit a crime. So it is important to note what are the different types when it comes to Of course, when we say digital forensics, that is just your crime or your attack that takes place digitally. So the main aspect in it is the device that the crime has been committed from. So one of it is your computing device, that is, it is used as a weapon to commit a crime. So example, launching a denial of service attacks or sending ransomware. So the main device from which you actually commit, or the computing device, that is the first type of computer which is used in cybercrime. So launching the denial of service, that is when you spam or when you continuously send requests from a device to a server, let's say, and the server gets at its capacity or it's no more functionable, that is your denial of service. And ransomware is when you the attack in which your device gets completely locked or frozen until and unless you don't pay the ransom to the attacker. So that is your ransomware. The second type of device is the target of a crime. Basically, the computer to which the attack is happening, or gaining unauthorized, this is an example, gaining unauthorized access to a target computer. So that is when there's a device, of course, which someone who is not authorized to access it gets access to the device. The third one is a computing device which is used as a facilitator of a crime. Example, using a computer to store and indiscriminating data or to make online communication with other criminals. So when we say facilitator, that is when, for example, your money laundering or the child pornography or any kind of unsolicited activities. Basically, this is when when we say money laundering, that is not a cyber crime, right? That is a crime, but if it's taking place through a computer or it's happening digitally, that becomes the facilitator of that crime. So that is all. So I have types of cybercrime over here, which of course, cybercrime is defined as any illegal act involving a computing device, network, its systems, or its applications. Cybercrime can be categorized into two types based on the line of attack. So crimes are, of course, on a vast level, but we can actually narrow it down to two types, that is internal attacks and external attacks. So internal attacks is when the breach of trust by disgruntled or unsatisfied employees within the organization. So that comes in under your internal attacks, which has some examples like espionage, the theft of intellectual property, manipulation of the records, Trojan horse attacks. So these are some of the internal attacks. One might also be the disgruntled employees. For example, someone is not on good terms with you, or has some issues regarding anything that has happened in the past. So that individual can actually use that as a way or a reason to actually conduct an attack or implement that. So that is the disgruntled employee. This happens a lot. Let's say the disgruntled employees comes. Of course, he has the access to a lot of things in your organization, and he actually manipulates the records, for example, right? So that is one example. The other one is external attacks. The attackers hired either by internal or external entities to destroy the organization's reputation or to cause financial impact or loss to the organization. So these attacks are not your insider attacks, or these are basically attackers who are hired by your external entities to destroy the reputation or other impacts. So examples can be web defacement, your salami attack, which is the popular attack that took place, your financial frauds, phishing, cyber pornography, domain name theft, email bombing. So these are some of the examples of external attacks. So let's discuss this one by one. So phishing, as I mentioned earlier, is a type of attack, the social engineering attack that is used to reveal the user's sensitive details such as bank credential, your password, your other sensitive information. So this is done via messages or emails that look legitimate but trick people, and they fall for it, fall for such scams. Phishing messages can be in different forms such as SMS, emails, URLs, etc. So let's say that you get an email from someone that you know, and just because you trust that person or you think that this is the person that you know, and you click and the email maybe says, I need, there is, usually a very urgency in such types of conversations or emails or messages. You will always find, and most of the times it's something related to your some monetary advantages, right? So, for example, I've seen a lot of people get such emails saying that the subject line will read as urgent, or please do this task for me urgently, I need your help, or something like that. The subject line will actually read like that, and the body will say that I'm in just a basic content saying that I'm in a need of some X amount of money. Can you please share your are you free to do this, or let me share my bank details to which you can immediately make the transfer, and I will immediately reimburse you the amount. So such types of emails are very common, and people receive such types of emails on a daily basis, and these people, they keep on sending follow-up emails, follow-up conversations to keep you in that zone. And once you click on such links or attachments or download that, immediately your system is compromised. And the main motive or intention is, of course, to reveal your sensitive data like your financial or bank credentials, passwords, or other sensitive information that is stored in your device. And one more thing that happens commonly is you get some mega exciting offers by email saying that this is a festive offer going on and whatnot. Unbelievable offers they give you, like 99% off, 95% off, unbelievable. So don't fall for such emails. Always verify the source, and you will actually you will be able to make out how such emails are actually fraud emails and not the legitimate ones. A lot of grammatical issues, or a lot of the email IDs are just very weird. You can just make it out by looking at it. The email IDs are very weird, and they does not look official at all. But of course, a lot of these crimes are moving on to the advanced level, but you will be able to see a lot of grammatical issues in the main body, or the URLs or the links or the attachments seem to be very suspicious. So always hover over such URLs before directly going and clicking on it. Okay. So the other attack is email bombing and spamming. So in which the intruder or group of intruders sends large volume of email to the target, resulting into crash, and it's called as email bombing. You get repetitive and spam emails out of nowhere, and that actually crashes your system or corrupts your working. So that is your email bombing and spamming. It is spamming is sending unsolicited emails to large number of users for commercial purposes. The links in spam mail can actually redirect you to phishing pages, right? The one that we discussed, totally false and phishing pages. These emails they lead you to. So these attacks are intertwined if you see, right? So website defacement. It is an attack on a website that changes the visual appearance of the site or a web page. This is typically the work of system crackers who break into your web servers and replace the hosted website with one of its own. The most common method of defacement is using SQL injections to log on to the admin accounts, and defacements usually consists of an entire page. So they will duplicate, or they will actually make it think like the page is actually real, and that is how this takes place. The most common method of defacement is using SQL injections. So basically, they want to get the access or control to the admin account, so that they can control the activities on your websites. Hacking. It is a process of gaining unauthorized access to the user's device or network. These hackers, they scan the target system for vulnerabilities and take advantage of them to get into the system. So once the access is gained and once they get the admin access, on the top of that, they install a Trojan or a keylogger to spy on the user's activity. So we keep seeing this word Trojan a lot. So Trojan is, you might know the story of that Trojan horse, right? Where it looks like it's a legitimate thing that's been going around, and the malicious code or the software is actually hidden behind the actual file, but it appears to be a legitimate thing, so that you believe it and you actually don't find it suspicious, but it's actually a trap, and it hides behind your actual file. And keylogger to spy on the user's activity. So crypto jacking is, for example, it is a piece of code that is usually written in JavaScript, and it infects your computers via a web browser. That is one example. Then comes your financial frauds. It is a criminal behavior in which a person uses wrong methods to trick a victim out of his money. The internet fraud scheme is a common example of financial fraud, which includes emulated online sales, retail schemes, business opportunity schemes, identity theft, your market manipulation schemes, and credit card schemes. So basically everything that has to do with your monetary advantages or your financial advantages. That comes under your financial fraud. So a lot of these crimes that takes place has this as a biggest or a major goal, that is your financial. So business email compromise. So it is a form of cybercrime that involves a scammer using an email to coerce a victim into sending money or disclosing sensitive company information. The culprit poses as a trusted figure, then he asks for a fake bill to be paid or for sensitive data that they can use for in another scam. So the phishing that I mentioned earlier is similar to this, but in this majorly what happens is I have actually a video to help you understand better what business email compromise is. So let me just go ahead and play that for you.
Eva is a hardworking person and she always does a perfect job.
Let me share my screen again. So this is a video on business email compromise that we have actually made in-house, and we do a lot of activities around these similar activities on awareness. So let us watch this video.
Eva is a hardworking person and she always does a perfect job when assigned any work. Today, however, when Eva was finishing up a report, she got an email. This email was from Veer, her manager. Eva opened the email. In the email, Veer mentioned that the package that he ordered from Nilgiri.com was shipped and the payment was due. And since Veer was out of station for a few days, he would not be able to make the payment immediately. Hence, in the email, Veer requested Eva to take care of the payment. Eva, being assigned the task, got to it immediately and paid the money, unaware of the fact that the money was sent to the bank account of the attacker pretending to be her boss. The attacker pretended to be Veer by using business email fraud and tricked Eva into believing that she was interacting with her manager. Eva made a lot of mistakes. Instead of verifying the lookalike domain or even thinking about why her manager Veer was suddenly asking for such a request, she transferred the money. Taking a learning from Eva, always remember to verify requests that include transferring of money or sharing of sensitive information through additional means of communication like phone calls or in-person meeting. If you receive an email that includes suspicious requests or
So that was the business email compromise. So I hope you saw the title of the subject line over there, which said that need your help, right? So that is how the urgency, just a minute, is created in such situations to fool you, basically. Yeah, so that was business email compromise. Next is intellectual property rights. So intellectual property rights is concerned with any act that allows access to patent, trade secrets, customer data, sales trends, and any other confidential information. So the next one is corporate espionage. Industrial espionage is the covert and sometimes illegal practice of investigating competitors to gain a business advantage. The target of investigation might be a trade secret, such as a proprietary product specification or formula or information about the business plan. So sometimes this actually comes under an illegal activity or a thing to do. So with those crimes, discussing about those crimes, I have some case studies for you. The first one is bank fraud. The victim complains that rupees 4.25 lakhs have been fraudulently stolen from his or her account online via some online transaction in 2 days using NEFT, using net banking. So this is how actually the attacks that we talked about or discussed about are actually happening on a real time basis. I'm sure some of you might also have either heard or faced or seen something like this happening, or you might have come close to receiving calls and wherein they out of nowhere asks you for money, or they try to help you and get advantages from you. The second one is identity theft, in which the victim complains that his debit or credit card is safe with him. Still, somebody has done shopping via his or her card. So even if even this happens, even if you think that you have your card safe and sound with you, your credit or your debit card, even then, by some means or by some ways that we discuss, it can these types of attacks can still happen, wherein they can actually have your details and they can do transactions on your behalf. So that is identity theft. The next one is cyber stalking. The victim complains that somebody has created a fake profile on Facebook and defaming her character with abusive comments and pictures. So this is also a very common attack that we come across, wherein our social media accounts or our our activities are being stalked upon, are being monitored on, wherein it starts with a minor thing, but it can lead to a major crime or a major thing that can actually cause a lot of huge impact on the victim, such as they can actually leak out any kind of information or pictures or data through these victims, and they can actually comment or send some very wrong messages or comments with abusive comments and pictures. The another case is, of course, again, of cyber stalking, wherein the attacker posted all the victims' information with their mobile number on a dating site and the person getting defamatory calls on a number. So these keeps happening, wherein the victim are actually manipulated or blackmailed with information such as this, and then it happens ahead. The next one is a case study for phishing email, in which somebody sends an email from income tax department and asks them for all the bank information. And after that, 40,000 INR has been fraudulently taken away from their account. So we might be aware of such activities or such happenings that are been going around, but our grandparents or our parents, they might not be actually aware. If they actually get a call saying that they are speaking from the income tax department or even from their bank, they might actually believe that person on the call, and they give away details without even thinking. So we need to make sure that we are educating them and making them aware that such sensitive information is not supposed to go via calls or via emails or any other medium. So I have one more. I have a couple more case studies for you. The umbrella company, the Brookson, self-refers to NCSC following cyber attack on its network in January, wherein the contractor payroll service provider referred itself to the NCSC after an extremely aggressive cyber attack that forced it to take systems offline. So that was the cause that happened, that they had to actually go offline. Coming amid the ongoing IR35 controversy, this incident and a separate attack on a different umbrella firm disrupted the salary payments of thousands of people. So this is, I think this happened in 2022, I think last year, this attack. And one more is cyber attacks on European oil facilities spreading in February. A series of cyber attacks targeting oil distribution terminals and other facilities in Europe had authorities on high alert, given rising fuel prices and the threat of supply disruption as the political crisis in Ukraine that escalated into conflict. So that is how that actually happens on a national, international level. A lot of huge impacts. Some more case studies: email hacking, lottery scam, the scam that I talked about earlier, when you get some lottery or some offers via emails. That is the lottery scam, wherein you get an email that you're a lucky winner for a big amount of prize money and asked to deposit amount to claim that prize. So this is a very common approach that these people follow, is that they will ask you to first deposit some money and post that you will be getting your lottery prize, right? Then there is data theft, a corporate complaint that his crucial data has been stolen and has been misused against his organization. So personal level pe attack hai, but it actually led to the data which was leaked was, of course, the data was of his organization. So that's it. Job fraud. Received an email for a job notification for a very big organization and they ask to deposit X amount of money and come for the interview with the payslip. So even something similar like this happened in my case, but some of my seniors in my college, or while their placement thing was going on, a company actually did this with them, and they actually asked to deposit some X amount of money in order to proceed with their profile for the job role that they were going for. Website hacking, we discussed this. So we talked about emerging technologies. We understood what digital forensics is, what are the goals of it, what are some of the case studies to further support our crimes. We saw some crazy numbers, and with that, what actually happens when an attack takes place, or what is the first step that goes across, which is of the first responder. So the first responder is a person who arrives first at the crime scene and accesses the victim's computer system after the incident. So we discussed how the attacks takes place, how it's been growing with the digital revolution and everything. But now we will understand what happens when an attack takes place. What are the steps involved in doing that? So the first responder at a digital crime scene is an individual, of course, who is responsible for the initial response to a crime scene. The primary objective of this individual is to protect, integrate, and preserve the evidence that is obtained from the crime scene for further analysis by digital forensics experts. So a very huge role this individual plays, because he or she has to make sure that the data or the artifacts or anything that has been discovered in the crime scene are protected and they are preserved in order for further analysis. The individual, the first responder, that is, might be a network admin, a law enforcement officer, or investigation officer, or some IT personnel who should, of course, have a good understanding of digital forensics and be trained in the proper, the individual should be aware of the proper procedures for handling and preserving the digital evidence. If the digital evidence collected by this first responder if it's forensically sound, then it is easier for the investigation team to find the actual cause of the crime. So their tasks may include documenting the scene, collecting your digital evidence, identifying the potential source of evidence, and securing the devices or networks that are involved in the crime scene, and which can be later used in the report as an evidence, and it should be maintained throughout the investigation. So that is how it actually plays a huge role in the initial phase for the first responder. Roles of the first responder: identifying the crime scene, right? Protecting the crime scene, making sure that no one who does not have the authority or the access to enters the crime scene. Photographing the crime scene, preserving temporary and fragile evidence, collecting the complete information about the incident, document all the finding, packaging and transporting the digital evidence. So we'll see all of these goals one by one to better understand. So let's start with identifying the crime scene. So after arriving at the crime scene, the first responder identifies the scope of the crime scene and establishes a perimeter. So in the image, as you can see, the crime scene needs to be made sure that it's under the perimeter, and the perimeter includes the particular area room or several rooms in such cases, in some cases, depending upon your attack, the crime, depending upon the crime and the network computers, how many computers are actually involved in that crime scene. And after that, the first responder starts listing the computer systems that are involved in the incident from which he or she can collect the evidence. So that comes under identifying the crime scene. After that, protecting the crime scene. So in a cybercrime case, a search warrant is of course required for searching and seizing your digital or electronic evidence. Therefore, a first responder protects all the computers and electronic devices and waits for the case officer in charge. So after identifying the crime scene needs to be protected. So the first responders' actions, as we discussed, are crucial in ensuring that the investigation is conducted in a forensically sound manner and nothing is happening out of the scope, which can lead to successful prosecution and convictions. Then comes photographing the scene. Photographing the scene in digital forensics is a critical step in documenting and preserving evidence. During photography, a variety of techniques may be employed, including your wide angle, close-up shots, multiple angles, and perspectives, and specialized equipment such as filters and lenses. So a lot of things comes into picture when you actually photograph a scene. All types of angles and shots are necessary to be captured. Maintaining the chain of custody is critical when photographing the scene in digital forensics. This may include using timestamps, metadata, and witness statements to ensure the integrity of the evidence. So maintaining integrity throughout is very important, as the original or the raw artifact is as it is when you actually take it to the court as an evidence. Preserving temporary and fragile evidence. In the case of temporary and fragile evidence that could change or disappear, such as monitor or screen information or a running program, the first responder does not wait for the officer in charge. So, of course, if something like this is happening, or you have a limited time to quickly act upon, the first responder can actually take the corrective or the right actions and need not wait for the case officer in charge. And of course, he or she needs to take the photographs of all evidence. The next one is collecting the complete information about the incident. For collecting the complete information, first responder conducts preliminary interviews of all the people present at the crime scene, and of course, interviews or asks questions about the incident. So, as much as information that can be collected, the first responder needs to make sure that that is happening. And once he captures all of the information or gets to know all of it, the documentation of all the findings is important. The first responder starts documenting all information about the collected evidence in the chain of custody document sheet. The custody document sheet contains information such as the case number, the name of the person who reported the case, address and telephone number, location of the evidence, date and time when it took place, and a complete description of the each item. That is how the documentation works. And the last one is packaging and transporting the digital evidence. So after collecting the evidence, the first responder labels all the evidence and places it in evidence storage bags, which protect the evidence from sunlight and high temperature. Of course, this needs to be done. These bags also block wireless signals or so that the wireless devices cannot acquire data from the evidence. Then the first responder transports these packaged these bags to the forensics lab. So those were the roles of first responder, and with that, I have come to my conclusion of my section of today's session. And what next? So after we have discussed all the attacks, all the goals, all the responsibilities of the first responder, so based on the crime that has took place, the further procedure or the path will be followed, and that will decide the type of forensic that needs to be pursued, like your image forensics, data forensics, network forensics, video forensics, etc. So with that, I would like to conclude my part, and thank you so much once again. And Ms. Gyati, hello.
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 Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, there are some queries. Shall I bring them to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, Mitesh Kishore Mehta from Kolkata is asking how to strengthen our skills in digital forensic as it's very technical and specialized sector. Ma'am, am I audible?
Hello, can you please repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am. He is asking how to strengthen our skills in digital forensic as it is very technical and specialized sector. Means he's asking from the point of view of a chartered accountant.
Okay. So, of course, it comes with a lot of practice, and you can actually start with a certification called a CEH to begin with, and even start your path from there. And a lot of certifications are there which you can take on and practice a lot in this domain. And
Oh, okay, ma'am. Ma'am, the other queries are also more or less same. So they just wanted to know the scope of a chartered accountant in this field, forensic accounting.
Okay, actually, I'm not able to hear you. Can you repeat?
I'm saying, ma'am, other queries are also around this issue.
Okay.
What is the role of a chartered accountant in this field, forensic accounting?
So, when it comes to the chartered accountants, you can just a minute. Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So everyone, I would actually would like to say that my senior is over here, and he would actually like to address these questions. So over to you, Mr. Gaurav.
Okay, so hi everyone. This is Gaurav Batra, part of CyberFred team and with Sejal. So for chartered accountant, I would just like to specify a few things today. Like when we are looking into cyber, as a forensic. Okay, so chartered accountant's role is majorly limited to the first responder. Okay, and when we go into the technicalities, okay, so computer understanding is not a rocket science. It's basically you need to understand what an operating system is all about. Like your day in day out, you are learning about the Windows. If you know how an IP works, okay, and how your communications are happening. So forensic is like your regular system audit, but just understanding the basic tools which we need to drive. Like I give you an example. Let's say if you go for a normal audit, okay, in that scenario, what do you email audit? What do? You look into an email coming from a particular user, And when you revert to that and looks if it is a phishing email, what do you do? It's a coming from whom? It's a to email to whom and the ID, and then you say, okay, in that person has sent me the email. But if you learn about like a small utility which is called header, okay, that comes with a Gmail or it has your Outlook or you're using Rediff mail. Just by clicking on a raw message and a header, you use a tool called MX tool and you put it in there. You will able to see if it is coming from the same gateway or if someone else is sending you, and you will easily able to do that it's not the right email. So basically, as a chartered accountant, what we need is you know about the basic functionality of OS, network, and simple. We don't expect that you go deep dive technical, do memory forensics, malware analysis. That's not required, because in forensics, a role of a first responder, which Sejal has explained, is very important and critical. And you being at that stage, at that position in forensics or accounting, you are going to be the first responder. So that is my expectations from all across chartered accountants, that you should do the first responder responsibilities. And after that, you can hire a technical guy, or you can actually build technicalities or among yourself. So it's a very easy process if you understand layer by layer that OS, network, data, and then it's these days, deep fakes, AI-based voice changes. A lot of things are coming in. So that's a step-by-step process which can be learned easily. But first is to start with the responder process.
Thank you, sir. Very well explained, Professor. Ma'am, there are no other queries. So I think we can conclude your session. And so
Thank you so much once again.
thank you, ma'am. And let me congratulate you for this wonderful session and an amazing PPT. Thanks for updating us about the emerging technologies with the help of examples and the shocking data, like the data of cyber attacks every 39 seconds and 95% of the cybersecurity breaches caused by human errors. And you have also told us about the types of cyber crimes, internal and external crimes, and also updated us with the new terms like website defacement, cyber stalking, and the actual cases which are prevalent in the environment surrounding us, like job fraud, lottery scam, data theft. So thank you, ma'am, for your enlightenment. So I am really hopeful that our members will be benefited by your session today. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So let us proceed towards the second leg of our session today, which is to be headed by Dr. Vinay Kumar Saini. Nisar ji, just a doubt. Shall we have 5 minutes break, or we shall continue with the third session? Okay. Thank you. So Dr. Vinay Kumar Saini ji has more than 18 years of experience in software development, information security, training, research, and consultancy. He holds BTech in computer science and engineering, and he is an MTech in information technology. He is also a PhD holder in computer science and engineering, blockchain. He has qualified CISA exam and is Wipro and Infosys certified faculty. He has published many research papers in journals and proceedings of international and national conferences. He has delivered many guest lectures on various information technology, risk management, IT security, and IS auditing related concepts in leading institutions like CA Sri Lanka, IEI, ICAI, RDIAS, TIPS, and many more across India and abroad. Sir, we wholeheartedly welcome you to this platform of Chartered Accountants. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Gyati ma'am. First of all, I must convey my sincere thanks and gratitude towards this initiative that we are having this event, which is perhaps the need of the scenario, and all the initiatives that DAB under ICAI is doing. I think it's really required, and it's very important to make everybody aware about.
Sir, you are on mute.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Gyati ma'am, for kind introduction, and before I proceed, I must convey my sincere thanks and gratitude to all the initiatives and that DAB is doing under ICI and our leaders like Nanda sir and all other associated members. Well, the need of the hour is we should be up with the skill set which is required to survive today, right? Now, if you look at the session held by, taken up by Sejal ma'am, she clearly highlighted the scenarios that are happening, the kind of threats, risks which are there in terms of like usage of systems, usage of technology, and all financial transactions that are happening around us. So it means that all the accounting systems which are there around us are vulnerable, right? And there are a lot of different kind of risks which are there, which may expose them or which may lead to serious damages all around us, right? So I think there was a question at the end of the session, like why what are the professional opportunities and what is the role of CA in this? Let me tell you one thing. If we feel that there are a lot of opportunities for fraudsters to commit frauds, so I think we as chartered accountants have the responsibilities to deliver assurance services to such systems, right? So the point is, like, our systems are having risk of getting exposed, okay? So it means somebody should take initiative so that these systems can be protected against such attacks first. Second, and if that attack has taken place, there should be people who will take responsibility of investigating that and identifying the root causes and the people involved, and so that appropriate corrective measures can be taken up and systems can be back on back to the normal state where services can be delivered to stakeholders in a proper way, right? So the point is there are a lot of professional opportunities available for chartered accountants. The only thing is, first we have to make ourselves aware why this domain is critical and what all is required to be learned so that you are capable enough to handle any professional opportunities in this area. So with this objective, I think I can proceed further, because now I can feel that Sejal ma'am have already created a scenario where we now feel that there are a lot of risks, right? And there are a lot of threats which are around us in all different kind of systems which are involving transactions, accounting, and financial operations, right? So cybercrime, mostly you will see, would be based on some kind of financial advantage or financial incentive that fraudsters want to have for attacking systems where some financial critical information which has huge value is there, or maybe some doing some fraud transactions by befooling people, right? So there are a lot of such things, a lot of risks are there. So now I will take you from where ma'am has left us with, like there are a lot of risks. So I'll take up from the same point where she has left, and we'll take up a lot of discussion. I'll give you various instances on how we can prepare ourselves, where we can be a player who can defend such incidents and can play an active role in minimizing the impacts or perhaps preventing such things to happen. Okay, so I'm Vinay Kumar Saini, and I'll be helping you in the second segment of this webinar. Okay, so we'll start with this slide where I have mentioned a statement which is by Edward Murphy. Edward Murphy was a person who was in aerospace research and engineering wing of United States Aerospace Department, and the role of this person was to study critical safety systems of aircrafts. Critical safety systems are those systems, if they fail or if they get damaged, the whole aircraft or the machinery is under serious threat, and it will lead to disastrous loss, right? So the person has done a lot of research in how to make sure that these systems operate in expected manner, right? And over the period of years, he built a philosophy that if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong, right? Means if there is any such possibility or instance which may affect the safety of the system, there are chances it will go wrong and the safety would be hampered and there may be an accident, right? So the point is, what we take from this? Well, the takeaway from this philosophy is, if we talk about financial fraud, right, wherever there's a opportunity for financial fraud, it will happen, right? So when we talk about cyberspace is the space where our systems are connected to internet, right? So internet is a space where you can connect to anybody, anytime, from anywhere, right? So cyberspace is a great platform and opportunity for fraudsters. From this space, they can reach out to any target and they can perform different kind of malicious activities, as highlighted by Sejal ma'am during the session, like ransomware, then clickjacking, website defacement, phishing, and whatnot. There are denial of service. So there are so many things that can happen. So the point is, fraud is everywhere, right? So we can assume that we are living in a world wherever there will be an opportunity of financial fraud or any different other kind of fraud, it will happen. Now you must think over that, okay, if fraud is everywhere and there are all possibilities of fraud happening, so I think there is huge scope and opportunity for us to be a person who can either detect that fraud or can help in minimizing any such frauds, right? So there are two perspectives. Either you can be a player who can prevent frauds from occurring, or you can be a player who can detect who had done this fraud, how much is the damage, and how it was committed, and you can help in resolving this case, and you can help in bringing the system back on operation, and it can serve the stakeholders. So with this philosophy, I'll take you to today's session, and this is the menu for today's discussion. We'll talk about process of forensic accounting, right? Like how we should approach. Then we'll focus on digital evidence, like what is digital evidence and what should be our approach in handling digital evidence. And then we'll talk about what are different domains, branches of digital forensics. And we'll quickly have a look at what are the different kind of tools which may be used for digital forensics. And finally, once you are done with the identification of evidence and all, there's a very important activity called interview, right? Interview of the suspect or interview of the people who are suspects. And finally, the person who has committed the fraud, you may have to interview that person also, right? So the point is, all these things are very critical and there are a lot of professional opportunities. And we'll quickly have a discussion around that also. We'll take a case study. And finally, I will talk about how technologies are emerging around us and how we should be careful in upskilling ourselves so that we are able to handle frauds around these advanced systems, right? So technologies around us are evolving and they are transforming how operations happens, like how accounting happens, how transaction happens, right? So if we don't understand that process, we really cannot identify how the fraud has taken place, or we cannot identify who has done it. So it's really important to understand how these systems around us or new emerging technologies are going to affect us and how they are going to operate, so that we can understand how we should plan our forensic audit, or perhaps how to pursue the case so that we can detect or we can identify the fraud. Okay, so I hope you have got clarity now what we are going to discuss today. So let's move on. So what is the process of forensic accounting, or perhaps forensic audit, you can say? First thing is you have to initialize yourself. You have to initialize your team. You need to understand what you are going to investigate, or what is the objective, right? So, well, there are two perspectives. One is either this whole forensic audit assignment which has been assigned to you, or you are part of the team, it is the proactive forensic audit. Like you want frauds to be minimized, or you want to prevent frauds to happen. And the other could be like the fraud has already taken place and you are made an in charge to investigate who has done it, how much is the damage, and how it was perpetrated or how it was committed. So you are made in charge to investigate all this. So in both the scenarios, the process would be the same, but you will have different objectives and you have to come up with different deliverables, right? If it is a proactive forensic audit, this last step, that is court proceeding, would not be there. Okay, so court proceeding would not be there. Your job would be to just study the system, identify the areas where fraud can take place, identify the evidences which gives you a clear understanding where are the vulnerabilities, where are the weaknesses in the system, and how fraud can be executed, and do analysis of all those evidence and come up with a proper report on what are the areas of concerns, and if required, with the recommendations, how systems can be strengthened, how they can be made stronger, robust, so that these frauds would not, or may not, or shall not take place. Okay, this is the preventive aspect of forensic audit. Second is where the fraud has already taken place. So in that case, you need to understand first input, right? The engagement letter that has been given to you, what are the expectation of the party who has given you the audit assignment. So let's say a fraud has been taken place, a financial fraud has taken place, where somebody has done some malicious transactions in your accounting system, and a lot of fund have been stolen from your accounts, right? Now the point is you need to understand what system they have, right? So let's say it's an ERP system, or maybe a kind of accounting software which is running in the cloud platform, like your QuickBooks or things like that. Or maybe it's a tally-based accounting system in a computer or a server or a ERP, right? So the point is initialization is a phase where you prepare yourself, right? You need to understand the systems involved, the people involved, the organization setup. So initialization is where you prepare yourself for the investigation, and you try to understand all critical inputs, right? So whatever data is available, whatever documentation is available around you, you need to take into consideration, and you need to study that thoroughly so that you can prepare an action plan. Now, what would be that action plan? The action plan would be to identify the areas which you need to investigate, right? And you will assign your staff members, your audit team staff members, that, okay, you are the one who will be studying this accounting system, right? And you are the one who will be taking inputs from people, like taking basic initial interviews or casual interviews, where you will take some input from what are the beliefs of the people who are working in that organization, right? Or you, and then you may ask somebody to prepare a documentation of whatever results are coming from all the teams, right? So point is, you will set up a action plan for your audit, right? So what the system is, right? And what are the different kind of areas, like within the system, there may be different software modules. So you may define like who will investigate or study that functionality, and you can come up with some conclusions, study the system and identify whether there are misconfigurations, like somebody may not have adequate security settings, like maker checker principle would not have been configured. Same person is doing initiation of the transaction, and same person is verifying and approving the transaction, right? Or or you may have to study the logs, right? So the point is, you may have to develop a plan of action, how you will plan and execute your audit, right? So that's your second step. Once the plan is ready, what you will do is you will send your team to start studying the systems and other areas. Like you will go and check the CCTV cameras, like all different kind of operations which are there in the organization, to collect all possible evidence. Because the third step that is your that's there is obtain relevant evidence. So you will identify the areas where you can have substantial evidence to support your findings. Okay, so it may be your physical security systems, your softwares from where the operations are happening, and the logs of attendance, and there would be various areas where there's a possibility of evidence, right? And then once you get all these evidences, you have to analyze all those evidences, right? And then finally you will prepare your report, and then you will present all of your reports in the court proceeding. And as a chartered accountant, if you're involved in investigation, you have a professional opportunity available to be an expert witness, where you have to present your finding exclusively related to how the fraud was executed, and evidences related to how much is the magnitude of the fraud and who has done it, right? So you may have to be present as an expert witness in the court to clarify or to present how the fraud has been executed. So the process is very simple and it is step by step. You cannot do step 2 without completing step 1. So you have to go in a sequence. So this is a general process. Now we'll get into the details on how we have to really look for different kind of evidences and how we can really perform an forensic audit. So let's move on to the next slide, like digital evidence, right? So the most important aspect for whole forensic audit process is to look for digital evidence, or the evidence which relates to who has done the fraud. Now, when we talk about cyber forensics or digital forensics or computer forensics, our focus is on digital evidence, right? So digital evidence is an electronically stored record, right? Facts, signs, information, or of probative value that shows clearly that an event has occurred or that a crime has been committed. So it could be a file in the computer, or it could be a log which signifies that, okay, this person has logged in at this particular time and he has used certain softwares, right? Or there can be CCTV footage of like movement of the staffs in and out of the offices or a working area, or there can be logs related to how the transactions are happening, like the trends, like all of a sudden you have seen a lot of transactions are happening during this period to this period, right? So there could be a lot of logs available. It could be related to network traffic. It could be related to emails. It could be related to how the systems have been accessed, right? So there can be a lot of different kind of digital evidences which you may have to study, investigate, and review before you come up with conclusion. So digital evidence is electronic record. It could be in the form of file, image, audio, video, or a log where you have entries of actions that have taken place in the system. So the point is, what is the purpose of focusing on digital evidence? Well, digital evidence serves many purposes, right? And a good system, if you're designing a good information system for any operation, like if you have an e-commerce website, so if you're looking for a good information system, you must design the system in a way that it records various different kind of activities, right? Instead of just having operation, you should always have some support system which will record what operations are taking place and who is doing all those operations. Let's say you have designed an accounting application which does the accounting, records the transactions, but there is no module which records who is doing the transaction and who is accessing the system and what transactions are happening. If there is no log of it, then that system is a very weak system, perhaps doesn't have any value, substantial value, because there is a vulnerability that it can be misused, right? So the point is, the digital evidence serves many purposes. It helps us in understanding the operations in the system. So it will help us in facilitating decision making, right? Whether we are getting value from the software which we are using for accounting or many other purposes. Second, it may gives us substantial information which will help us in crime investigation. And yes, of course, if it is a serious crime and it has legal perspective associated with it, so you may have to present that evidence in the court so that decision can be verdict can be done in your favor, right? And finally, let's say the damage has been done. So your digital evidence will help you in recovering from that disaster, the damages that are there. So it will give you a clarity about how much damage has taken place and how to make your system back to original normal state, right? So these are the uses of digital evidence. Now we'll quickly talk about what are the different sources and types of digital evidences. Now, sources of digital evidence can be the files in your phone or tablets or electronic devices, smartphones or smart devices. Then emails, right, which stores the conversation and activities between parties. Digital photographs, images, transaction logs, if it is fraud related to a bank, specifically related to ATM machines, transaction logs can be there. Word processing documents, like it could be a document where you have some reports which may have been stolen and some financial loss has been, it has led to some financial loss. For example, you have some sensitive documents and your system gets attacked by ransomware, and now they are asking for some kind of compensation. Only then they will be giving you the documents back, right? So the point is, the cybercrime is basically a crime which focuses on electronically executing some kind of malicious task. It may involve some kind of electronic activity, right? Somebody will access your system and will either send a virus to your system through many means. So there will be some digital evidence on how that activity has actually taken place, right? So there can be digital evidence in the form of like message histories or logs of your network traffic, like when you have accessed certain kind of hyperlink through which the ransomware has entered your system, right? There's a possibility that you have a means like a Excel sheet or spreadsheet which has a macro, and macro has a virus and which has affected your system, right? So then there could be internet browser, like your internet browser is perhaps one of the most vulnerable software in your systems. Why? Because this is the mode through which you connect to internet. So it maintains all the history and logs, like what internet websites you're browsing and what all requests you have sent to the cyberspace, and you have received results accordingly. So you may have visited some malicious website because you are looking for some kind of softwares or maybe some kind of reference material for your project, and they may have taken you to some malicious link where you have downloaded a malicious software or file which has infected your system. And then databases are basically which stores all the data about like operations of a system. It could be like if you talk about e-commerce systems, so all the sales that are happening, the customer data and the customer placing order, the shopping carts, and how the payment has been done, from which mode it has been done. All this data gets stored in databases. So databases are basically the repository where all the data is stored in information systems. So that is a very critical component where digital evidence would be there, right? So content of computer memory, like your hard disk and your RAM and pen drives, all these are again very critical sources where you may find evidence. Then computer backups, computer printouts that you have taken, and you must have a a log where it is recorded that what all print commands have taken place, right? So that you can investigate and check out, okay, who has taken printout at what time and what that printout was, like at least the name of the file is there in the log, okay? Then if it is about a fraud which involves a high-end software which involves like theft of some inventory and all, and you have a system in place where you can track the movement of the people who are involved in inventory transfer and transportation. So GPS system logs can be a substantial source for digital evidence, and log of different kind of softwares like hotel software or hospital management software. So these can be again critical sources for important evidence. And then it could be audio files, digital videos, where you can get evidence like the footage of your CCTV camera or some audio recording where you have communication with some parties. Like many times what happens, you get a call from people, and that may lead to some kind of financial fraud. telebanking or tele-related frauds are there. So if you have audio files, records available, that may also give you a clue about the fraud and the modus operandi and how it was executed and what all activities were there during that fraudulent incident. So these are the different sources. Now, looking at this, you might be wondering, well, these are all too technical things, how we can really understand all these things. And there are a lot of specialized skills required to handle these kind of evidences. Well, yes, you need specific skills, but the point is, first of all, you need a clarity that, okay, there is a possibility of evidence where it would be, right? You know that evidence for an activity is something which relates to either how the fraud was done, how the data was initiated, because whenever there is a cyber crime or a fraud, it will involve some kind of digital data. So digital data would be stored somewhere. It will be accessed by somebody. It will be transferred to something, right? So the point is, you need to understand the data undergoes various stages, right? So one stage is where the data is kept in static state, like the data would be stored somewhere. So you must know what are the different areas in the system where data is stored. Okay, so it could be your memory devices, hard disks, pen drives, right? Or it could be a printed form of reports, right? Then you have data on cloud storage drives. So this gives you clarity. Okay, there are different areas where data gets stored. So first thing is you must have clarity. Okay, the evidence would be available where the data related to our operation is stored. Okay, so this is one thing. Second thing is the data undergo processing. Okay, so we know one is the element where data is stored. Second is the data is undergoing some operation. Whenever you do some transaction, whether it is fraudulent or genuine, it will undergo certain kind of processing. Now that processing would be done by some software, right? Now that software will do the processing. Now that processing will be done only if somebody initiates that processing. Okay, it means there is a user who has initiated some processing, some execution of a transaction, right? And that's the moment the data from the storage device was fetched, accessed, and then the transaction was executed. So now you get second input. That one are the first is the memory devices where you'll get the evidence. Second is the software and how the software is accessed. Okay. Now the software has various different modules, and there are different users that access that software. Okay, so it means we must have a storage, means a repository or a detail of how many users are there which are allowed to access the system. Okay, and what is the mechanism of accessing the system? Okay, and whether we have two-factor authentication or not. Like once you log in, there should be a second level of verification. Okay, and it means if all these things are happening, definitely these things would be stored somewhere in the logs. So through those logs, you can get the data, who has accessed the system and at what time they have access and what operations they have done. Okay, right. Now the second thing is, so one was storage of the data. Second is processing of the data. Then there is transferring of data. Okay, now you have initiated the transaction. Now after that, after the execution of transaction, you may send the data, or maybe you are sending some files, stealing the data, or you are executing transaction. So data will travel from your software to some outside interface through internet. So here comes the network. Now it means now you must have some tool by which you can study how the data goes out of the system. One is when the data is at rest. Second, one, the data is in processing. Third is when the data is in transmission phase. So these are the three areas. If you look at it, you will get a lot of sources where you may find the digital evidence. Now, if you list out, see the list, phone, tablet devices, these are basically the device where you may get evidence. And what kind of evidence you will get? The evidence where the data is stored. Okay, so like emails would be stored in your phone. You may have photographs, you may have documents, files, right? But the database is somewhere in the server. So like from your phone, the data or a transaction would be initiated. So it means in the server, you may get transaction logs, user lists who are allowed to access the system and how they have accessed at what time. And if somebody has sent the data outside, that would be available from network traffic and log of network traffic. Okay. So the idea is you must understand the system and what all devices, users, and people are involved and how data is getting processed in that system. So that's a basic insight you can have to identify what are the sources of digital evidence. Okay. Now, what is the legal perspective for an evidence? So let's say you are exploring evidences during forensic audit. The thing that you need to take into consideration is integrity and authenticity of the evidence. Let's say you are having a device which was used for committing a fraud. Okay. Now you have you reach to the office the fraud site from where the fraud has been perpetrated or executed. You went there and you found that there were some laptops, some pen drives, and other hard disks or systems were there. So first thing you need to take care of is you need to pick up all these devices, seal them, and in front of a person or third party or some other, like the people who are in charge of those areas, like there should be witness that you have collected the original evidence or devices, and then you should take it to your forensic lab or place. And then from there, you should first try to make copy of this evidence. So you should not start doing analysis straight away. So you must make a copy of this evidence, right? And then you should start analyzing the copy of the evidence, right? So you must switch off all the computers if they are in running state, and then use some tools, forensic audit tools, to first make the copy of the media, like copy of the hard disk data, copy of the pen drives, right? And then after taking the copy, you just have to pack and seal all the devices and original evidence that you have collected. Okay. You have to ensure the integrity of the digital evidence that you have collected. And you must make sure that it doesn't get tampered or modified. So it means when you are making a copy, you should keep your devices in a shutdown state. Now you'd be wondering how I can make a copy of a digital evidence, maybe the data, or let's say I have a laptop which is in off state or power off state. How I can make a copy of the data in the hard disk? Well, there are devices and tools available. Let me give you an idea. I can have a pen drive, which is a bootable pen drive, without starting the actual operating system and other thing. I can connect this pen drive, bootable pen drive, to your system, and I can boot the system from this pen drive. So I will not start your Windows operating system. I will run my own installed system, pen drive based Live OS. We say Live OS. So I'll plug in the pen drive. It will start my operating system, which is running from the pen drive, not from your computer, and it will study all the system resources and will make a copy of that. Okay, so without actually starting and running your system, means the operating system, I can make a copy of the digital evidence. So that's one thing you should be careful about. The point is, the reason why we are talking about this is because when you produce this evidence in the court, the integrity would be questioned. And you must present all the activities that have been taken place after you have collected the evidence. What you have done, what actions you have taken, and were the witnesses, like human beings, some expert witnesses were there, like the owner of the organization from where the devices were collected, and then some people in your team who were the witnesses that you haven't taken, means you haven't tampered that evidence, you just have made the copies, and the system is exactly the same which was collected from the crime side or the fraud side. And you have to maintain the chain of custody, who all have kept the custody of that device, and authenticity, like from where you collected it, and who all were the people who handled this evidence. And you have to ensure that nowhere the integrity, like there was no tampering on that evidence, right? So these are two important areas, factors that you need to consider when you are handling evidence, okay? Then once you have collected the evidence, or perhaps when you are collecting the evidence, you may have to use different kind of tools available. One is computer forensics tools. So computer forensic tools basically focus on the hardware, computer hardware, where you may have to study various memory devices, right? And the tools would be focused on fetching the data from all those memory devices. It could be a pen drive, it could be your hard disk, right? Or other flash drives or memory cards, right? So computer forensics handles all that digital evidence that you collect. It could be an image or a video which you collect from a computer, right? And as I mentioned, there are tools by which you can get the copy of that digital evidence without running the computer or without actually doing or accessing the digital evidence from the operating system itself. You can create your own live OS and get a copy of that evidence. Now, the second branch for digital forensics is mobile device forensics. Here, our objective is to get the evidence from mobile devices. Okay, so you will have a sophisticated tools for that, like forensic audit softwares which can access data from the mobiles, right? So you will have some softwares running in your laptop, and you will connect your mobile to that, like the evidence, the mobile device you have collected from the crime site. You will connect that mobile device to that, and you will get the data, access data from that. Many times you may have a mobile device which is in a lock state. Okay, so in that case, what will happen is your software will basically access the data in a passive state, right? It will read your mobile device from non-runnable state. As I mentioned in the computer, like you will not run the operating system, you will switch off your mobile device, and then your live OS will read it in a in a way where your mobile operating system would not be accessed. It will ensure the integrity of the device, as well as you can make a copy of the data in the mobile device. Then comes network forensics. Here you will have software tools which can monitor the traffic of network, like whatever requests are going out of the network and coming in. These softwares will capture that traffic data. And there are many softwares available like Wireshark, and many network traffic analyzer tools are available. What they do is they capture the request that you are sending, right? And they make a log of it. Like you are sending a request, or these are the packets which you have sent, and what was the content in those packets. So they just make a copy of every packet that you are transferring outside the network and whatever traffic is coming in the network. So network forensic tools are basically the tools which capture all the traffic which is going in and out of the network. This will give you evidence of who is accessing the system, like what request is coming from, which IP address it is coming. IP address, you might be knowing that it's an identification of the computer to which you are communicating, right? It's the identity of the computer, which computer you are talking to. Okay, so IP address, right, and the port number, which application you are talking to. So it will give you identification of the device from which the fraud would have been done. Like, let's say a fraudster is using a laptop and he's trying to connect to your accounting system, and then he's trying to modify the data or account numbers for executing the transaction. And in place of some genuine account number, he has replaced that account number with his own account number, so that when the transaction is executed, so the funds get transferred to that particular account number, right? It's like data modification and man-in-the-middle attack, getting in between the operations and changing the data so that the transaction gets executed and the funds can be rerouted to some other account number, right? So this can be done with the help of network, forensic softwares, which will monitor and study the network traffic data. Okay, now the next is forensic data analysis. Let's say you have transaction data transaction data has been provided to you of various accounts, and you are being asked to present your observation on which transactions you think are a malicious transaction, or they are related to money laundering, or transfer of funds which don't look genuine transactions, and it may be associated with some kind of crime. Okay, so in that case, you have a huge amount of data. So what you will do is you will use some auditing tools which will study the data, analyze the data, and will identify possible fraudulent transactions. Now, here you may think that the data is very huge and it would not be, you will not be able to study it manually, of course. So what you can do is, and if it is way huge, you can use a AI program, artificial intelligence software, and you can train that software based on some patterns. Let's say there are 100 transactions, okay, and you are asked to study these transactions and identify which you think are fraudulent transactions. And if you talk about banking transactions for a salary account, you may think, okay, if there are cash transactions like cash deposits, heavy cash deposits are there, so they may be fishy transactions, okay? Then there could be a rule like the means from one specific account, there have been a lot of transactions, and that account is not a salary account, okay? And there are transactions from that account, credit transactions are there, okay? And then you may then be sending some amount to some other account, right? So that may also involve huge transactions. So there are certain rules by which you can see, okay, these are the genuine transactions, these are non-genuine, this may be fraudulent. Now, based on, there are certain rules, right? So you may define certain rules for salary account. So now once you have these rules, you can pass on these rules and you can train a computer program for that. And this is artificial intelligence, where you're training a computer program for certain rules and patterns so that that computer program can scan and study huge amount of data and transactions and can give you outputs which normally a human being will give, right? So that's what forensic data analysis is, where you have AI-based softwares and other auditing tools which will scan your data and will highlight which are the possible fraudulent transactions. And last is database forensics, which will be based on studying the data from a database, which is most of the time the backend of any information system, where all operation data and all the transactions are stored. So these are different software tools. If you talk about database forensics, it will involve SQL language by which you can access data from a database. So it totally depends on the type of evidence. According to that, you may have to use specific tools, software for forensics, so that you can study that evidence and can come up with some kind of conclusion. So based on these categories, there are different kind of forensic tools available, which will target to identify digital evidence. So one is disk and data capturing tools, which will study or capture the data from hard disk or pen drives or other things. Once you get the data, then there will be tools which will help you in viewing the file or studying the files. Let's say the data is available in different formats. So you will have a tool which supports all different kind of formats, right? So you will use that software and you will take the copy of the evidence that you have collected, and then your file viewer will study all the data from that copy of the evidence and will segregate all that data into different files. After that, it will give you a report that there are say 1,000 Word files, so many PDF files, so many Excel sheets, right? So, and then after that, file analysis tool. There will be tools which will study the file content and will give you a summary report about what you are looking for. And there will be tools which will perform operations, say analytical operations on the file, and will give you potential evidences, right? Then a registry analysis tool. For example, let's say your device or perhaps the device was used to commit a fraud. Okay, so now how that fraud has taken place, this can be studied based on the registry. What is registry basically? Registry is a repository, a file in your computer which records every aspect of your computer. Like what are the hardware devices installed in your computer, what are the software installed in your computer, and how many users are there, who can access which file. Everything is stored in registry files. And configurations, how your system will operate, how your system will behave. So whenever there is a fraudulent activity, some footprint, some signature, some activity would be there in the registry, which will give you a clue about how the fraud has taken place, right? For example, let's say somebody wants to, encrypt your files and then create files in an unreadable format, like you want to, like a ransomware, it will read all your files and will encrypt those files and will create in a format which cannot be read. Okay. Now what will happen is the moment this file gets into your system, right, a log is created, like application log, network log, security log, that somebody has executed this application. And then after execution of this, there'll be an application log that this software is running and it is doing operation on all these files. Okay. So now through registry and other log files, you'll come to know that this is the software application which has done this operation. Now, this software application, who has executed this software? So you will see the user logs, right? And okay, this is the user who has run this application. And let's say by mistake, you have executed that ransomware file. So the log will show that this is the user who has done it. Okay, now you will go and study and ask that user, okay, the system shows that you have initiated this operation. Do you know anything about it? And then you can plan your interview and get other additional details from it. Okay. Now the user may say, sir, I was accessing websites and I accidentally clicked on this link, and then I moved, this software was downloaded, and I thought this is a genuine software and I executed it. Okay. Now they may ask you which website you visited. Okay. Then again, you will get some other data like the domain name of the website and IP address. After that, you can move on further to check, okay, which IP is this, where it is hosted, what is the target location of this IP, okay, and what device was involved, from which device this data has been downloaded, a server or a remote computer. And that way, that's how investigation take place and investigation goes on. Okay, so same way there are tools which focus on studying internet traffic, right? If you want to study for example, through network traffic analysis tool, you got a lot of data that these are the websites which user has accessed. Okay. Now what you can do is you can go and check those websites and you can do analysis, and you can have comparative analysis whether these websites are genuine or not. You can study their digital certificates, and all other different kind of analysis can be done using internet analysis tools, where you can check the root of trace route, like who was the actual computer from which this transaction was initiated. Then if it is an email-based fraud, then you can have email analysis tools where you can go and study the signature of the email, where to, from, to, and the origination, timestamp, and message of the email. All these things can be studied and analyzed, right?
Dinesh, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt, but there are certain queries, a number of queries coming up regarding the name of tools. If you can suggest some name of the tools.
Okay, let me tell you one thing. The point is you need to understand name of the tools. Okay, I'll tell you, there is a software called Kali Linux. It's an operating system where you have a lot of tools available for reviewing the file of the contents, file analysis, registry analysis. And if you talk about email analysis tool, so the point is, if you say, as I mentioned, there's a tool called Wireshark. Okay, Wireshark is a tool which captures network traffic. Okay, so I can give you the tool name. Just a second. Let me access that. Okay, just a minute. let me share, keep the screen sharing on, and I'll. Okay, so just a second. Let me open that interface. Just a second. Okay. Okay. So as I mentioned, one is Wireshark, there is a Datadog, and there are many such tools available which do network analysis, email analysis. And when we talk about your say disk analysis and all, you can use this Live OS like Kali Linux, or maybe Kali Linux Live OS, or you can use some other Linux version like Linux Mint version is there. So idea is you will create a pen drive which will have your operating system, Live OS, and you can connect your pen drive with your potential device from which the fraud has taken place, and then you can make the copy of the hard disk content. And there are other network monitoring tools. I'm just getting to that list. Right. So the point is, there are specialized softwares, and I mentioned this Kali Linux. It has a bundle of tools, right, which you can use for different kind of forensic activities. And there is Email Track Pro. Let me share your. Let me. Okay. I hope you can see the screen. These are list of email forensic tools. Autopsy is one of the most popular one, right? And FreeWeaver or FileWeaver, and there are many such softwares available. Idea is you must understand the objective behind it, and then there are tools which will help you in doing all these things. And many of these software tools are available in Kali Linux itself, right? It's an operating system which is used for ethical hacking, as Sejal ma'am mentioned. If somebody was asking on how we can plan and prepare ourselves for this domain. So the approach is you can pursue a course where you will be getting hands-on training with all such tools. So one such software is Kali Linux, which is bundle of such tools, right? So it's a single operating system which you can use, and a lot of forensic tools are available within that operating system, which you can use for either network traffic analysis or email analysis, or internet analysis, or file opening, file viewing, log monitoring, or log studying, right? So the idea is you must understand where the potential evidence is, and then you can have a set of tools which will study that evidence and will give you the understanding or summary of what content is there in those evidences, right? So you can note down, one is Kali operating system, and then it may have these software applications. Many software applications are available. Like I mentioned, one is Wireshark. Then there is, if you talk about cloud-based data, there is Datadog software which you can use. It's a cloud-based service which will give you analysis of any potential computer which is connected to internet. Okay, so it means you can create your account on a website Datadog, and then through that you can give the IP address of any device which you want to monitor through the network, and then you can study the traffic, which traffic is going to that computer, and who is accessing that computer, and all those summaries can be generated with that software Datadog, right? Most of these tools are paid tools, right? So you need to configure your forensic system, forensic analysis system. Like you may have a specialized laptop which has Kali Linux and all these tools, and then you can use it for studying all these evidences, right? Now, the point is when once you are studying these evidences, then after your understanding of these evidences, you may have to plan interview process. And that interview process should be a structured interview activity where your objective should be to get as much as critical information, which gives you clue about how the crime was executed and how it has led to the loss to the organization. Okay. And many times what happens is you are not sure. And when you are studying the evidence, it gives you an information that there are possible suspects, like there are 5, 10, or many suspects are possible who might be involved in this fraud. So the point is you have to make sure that the suspects don't get the clue that you are after them, right? And so you have to keep things very confidential that you are doing some kind of a forensic or crime investigation. You should plan your interview process in a way that the person feel comfortable and give you as much as information related to the fraud as possible. So it's again a step-by-step activity. First, you have to prepare yourself. You have to collect all the data related to the crime and whatever you have studied from the evidences and background information of the people you are going to interview. And you must set up a purpose for the interview, what you are going to look for in that interview, right? Once all these things are defined, you must define the time and place for the interview, right? And you should make sure that it's a time when you think the person would give you most possible support. And it should not be somewhere at the end of the day where the person has to rush back to his place and all, and he may not give you much time, right? So the time and place of the interview is again very critical. And then you should prepare your site where you will conduct the interview. And you should make sure that there are no other person around, right? So it should be one-on-one conversation, and you should record that conversation and whatever, like it could be a video recording or audio video recording, or at least audio recording of what communication discussion is happening. And then you should initiate your interview. Now, during interview, you will ask various different kind of questions, and there can be different kinds of question. And you should structure the question in a way that gives you maximum outcome, right? And during the discussion, when you're asking the question, please take note of all the points which are there. It's not just what the suspect is speaking about. You must also record the gestures, the hand, body movement, body language of that person, so that you can relate to what he's talking about, whether it is synced with what his body language says, right? If there is a mismatch, like the person is feeling uncomfortable and while speaking, so this clearly suggests that he's not confident and he may be giving you the false information or maybe lying with you, and he's not comfortable talking about that particular aspect or activity, right, or the concept. So these are critical information which will help you in planning further investigation. Right. Finally, while concluding the interview, you must make sure that it ends on a positive note, and it ends in at a note that there is no disagreement or a kind of a clash or a conflict of opinion between the people. Right. It should end on a good note, and you should make sure that all the things are documented during the interview. Okay. Now the point is, like interview is a very critical activity. Right. And before you actually start taking the interview, you must understand that you must have psychological skills. You must have understanding of all the critical information related to the fraud. You must have background information of the person you're going to talk about. And you must have understanding of the magnitude and all the other legal aspect related to that particular fraud, so that you don't commit any mistake during your interview, right? So it's an art. Basically, it takes experience to master this art. More you will be involved in forensic audits, more you will interview people, you will get better in doing this thing, right? So now there are various different kind of questions which would be part of your interview. It could be informal questions where you are just talking about general information just to prepare a scenario or just to make that person comfortable talking to you about that particular activity, or just to prepare a kind of a context so that you can start talking about that particular fraudulent activity. Okay, and then after that, you may start with some open-ended questions. Okay, let's say you may start asking, okay, are you aware of some malpractices that may be happening in your organization? Or are you aware, or do you feel that people in the organizations are doing some kind of misappropriation of assets, or misappropriation use of asset, or maybe they are doing some, malicious activities, or they are either stealing some information assets or misusing them, or are you aware that there are some vulnerabilities or weaknesses in the system which may get exposed? So these are open-ended questions. So you are not telling that person that you have done the fraud, but you are asking, okay, what his opinion is about the system and its operation, right? And then there could be close-ended questions. Close-ended questions are basically should be asked at the end of the interview, like, have you done the fraud or not? Right? Yes or no. The close-ended questions are generally the question which are answered in the form of yes or no, where you are actually talking about specific aspect of that fraud and whether the person is involved in the fraud or not. So such questions are close-ended questions. Leading questions are used normally in a scenario when the person is not basically giving you clue, or you are in a kind of a state where you feel like it's a dead end and you are not getting any clue, okay, how to get further information out. So you may start creating a false scenario or hypothetical scenario. Okay, do you think somebody would have done it this way? Or you may say that, okay, do you think your account could be misused by somebody else? Or you may create some scenarios so that the person start thinking about that particular fraudulent incident. So these are called leading questions, where you are trying to trigger that person so that he or she may start thinking about that fraud scenario. And you should avoid complex questions, double negative questions, because these are confusing questions and these are hard to understand and interpret, and this will not give you any information, valuable information. So you should not use double negative question like, okay, do you think, which may involve two different conditions, right? For example, okay, do you think fraud happens in your organization and people misuse your resources? So means don't combine two questions in a single question, and don't use negative questions, right? So it should be positive questions in a way that doesn't target that individual, okay? And you should not use those questions unless you are closing the interview. And complex questions, which creates a complex scenario with multiple conditions, avoid that. Attitude questions means which questions the individual's personal traits. You should not talk about any such question, like you're talking about like gender specific questions, or maybe like the community specific questions, or like you are judging the person and making specific reactive questions, like you seems to be quite impulsive, your behavior is rude, and then you start saying that, hey, do you know the consequences of such behavior? So means attitude related questions should not be there, right? And admission seeking questions are those questions when you realize, or perhaps the suspect has realized that he has been caught or she has been caught, and then you may start asking, okay, I think I'm the one who can support you and can help you in from this situation. So please try to give me more and more information so that I can present the true information about this fraud, and you may face minimum punishment, or I can present the clear and correct information that what was the reason you committed this, so that you may get minimum punishment. So admission seeking questions are those questions where you are trying to play psychologically with that person, so that the person admits why and how and when this crime was done by that person. So these are different kind of questions. right? And you should avoid this double negative, complex, and attitude questions. Okay. Rest, there are different like informal, open-ended, close-ended, leading question, and admission-seeking question, which you should use during your interview. And this is the sequence how you should proceed. Like you can start with open-ended questions, and then you can ask probing questions. Then, in case you feel like it's a dead-end kind of scenario, then you may create hypothetical scenarios or questions like, okay, there are 7 employees who are working with you in this organization. Do you think those people have done this fraud? Do you think they have adequate knowledge? It means you are creating scenario so that the person start thinking about the fraudulent scenario, right? And in this, what do you say, transition, what will happen is that person may give you some kind of a clue. And the moment you get that clue, you have to catch it, and then you have to proceed with the next question, that is a reflective question. Okay, the moment you got a critical input, okay, so you said on that evening you came to the office for some urgent work. Okay, so can you please elaborate what was the urgency, why you have to come back that evening, and what you did in the office that day? So that way you can go further, and you can ask question and plan your question so that you get more and more information. And a closed-ended question should be asked at the end of the interview, where you just want to have confirmation from the person, whether he has done it or not, right? Whether he tampered the documents or not, he forged the documents or not. So all these other closed-ended questions that should be asked in the end, right? So the thing is, during this whole discussion, you should observe the body language, the movement, hand movement, body movement, so that you can sync the information that person is giving to you with the psychology that person is having, right? And then you can have a better understanding whether the information that you have got has value or not, or does it reflect the correct scenario or not, right? And then it's not the end of the whole investigation. You get information, you record it, and then you match it with other informations and evidences. If they are in sync, you will definitely come to a conclusive point where you can present your report, and further proceedings can be taken into the court, right? So you must plan your interview in a proper way so that you end up getting proper results. Now comes professional opportunities. Well, the professional opportunities are like you can be a digital forensic specialist who can be part of proactive forensic audits and detective forensic audits. Now, how you can become digital forensic specialist? You need to understand digital forensic specialist is a person who has a kind of inquiry kind of a mindset. He has a good observation skills. He has good psychological skills, and then he has good technical skills. And technical skills are perhaps the most important skills here, right? And when it comes to digital forensic specialists, the technical skills are that you must understand different kind of computing devices, okay? All the different kind of devices like your laptop, computer, mobile device, endpoint devices, right? And the latest devices which are used, support devices like RFIDs, scanning devices, and latest devices, you can say like the operating systems for all these devices. You must be aware of them, right? And then all the other software utilities, how data gets stored. There's a concept called database forensics. So you must know what is a database, how data gets stored in those databases. Now the point is, this seems quite technical, right? But what you can do is you can start step by step. First of all, you need to understand how computer operates, then how network operates, then how data gets stored, how data gets processed, how data gets accessed, how data get transferred. So these are different things that you need to take up. And once you understand fundamental of computers, then you can take up a course like your ethical hacking course, where you will study how these digital data or evidences are handled, how they are analyzed, how they are studied, right? Now, it may seem too technical. So one thing you need to understand is a forensic accountant or forensic auditor need not to be an expert in digital forensics, right? So a forensic auditor or forensic accountant is a person who understands or who has a mindset of investigating a financial fraud or financial crime. Okay, so that is a person who understands how to plan investigation, how to execute investigation, and how to collect evidence and present it in the court. So these are fundamental skills. Besides that, you need to have skills because the crime is being done using digital devices or the evidence is in a digital format. So you need some specialists like IT specialists who are expert in these digital skills, handling digital evidences or using digital forensic tools. So you can have a team of people who will investigate the fraud, right? And as a chartered accountant, your role would be to be a player who can plan, who can study, who can evaluate whether everything is happening in a proper way, which will fulfill the requirements of the investigation. Let me tell you one thing. A technical person who has technical skills is good in studying the system, in using the technology, but for doing audit, you need a person who has auditing mindset, who knows the assurance aspect of the operation, right? The ultimate objective of forensic audit is to study the evidences and present the actual finding, how fraud was executed, who did it, and support evidence for that. And as an auditor, you have to deliver assurance that the data was collected properly, the evidence was studied properly, and it is the report is in a format which is acceptable in the court, and we can prove the integrity and authenticity of the evidence, and it should be accepted by the court, right? So you can be an expert witness, and you'll be the person who can help in managing the whole forensic audit process. So you need to understand, if you are not good in technology, that doesn't mean you cannot be a digital forensic specialist, right? Digital forensic specialist is an activity. It's not just limited to studying digital evidence. It is about planning, executing, and reporting digital evidence also, right? Identification to reporting, right? So you can be a team player who is coordinating and recording everything and studying the, effectiveness of every step. And then your team members are providing you the data, and you can present the case in the court, right? Or whatever is the scenario. Coming to other aspect is proactive forensic accounting audits. Here you need to have a perspective where you will study the system, you will monitor and identify weaknesses, and you will conduct fraud risk assessment, right? So the opportunity for chartered accountants here in proactive forensic audit is very high. There's a huge scope. Let's say every practicing chartered accountant has so many clients, right? And as I said, frauds are everywhere. So what you can think is, your all clients which are there, they are having their business is running, right? They're using some kind of softwares and other e-commerce systems for their operations. So there would be many opportunities, perhaps many scenarios where fraud might be taking place. So you can help your clients in identifying the areas where fraud are happening, right? So you can conduct proactive forensic accounting assignments, and you can identify the areas where fraud are happening and may be happening or may happen, right? Which may damages the organization's reputation and may lead to financial losses also. So this involves a specific activity which we call as fraud risk assessment. Now, this is a interesting professional assignment that you can take up. You can conduct fraud risk assessment audit for your clients. So this is an exciting professional opportunity which you can take up, and as you gain confidence and exposure, you may take up more specific roles, or you may hire experts for specific roles like hard disk forensic, email forensic, and for that you can hire experts, and you can be a team leader who can manage the whole audit project, okay, forensic audit project or assignment. Now, let's take a small case study, which will give you a clue on how we should take care of various aspects while doing for a forensic audit, right? So it's a small case study just to get you an understanding and experience on what a forensic audit is and how we should take care of our execution of a forensic audit. So this is a case study which I've taken from internet. It says that $58,000 discrepancy was there in cash account during year-end audit of a gas station. So gas filling station was there, and there was an accounting system where they record like how they are selling fuels to the customers, and they are recording all the transactions that are taking place. So there was a discrepancy of $58,000, right? It's a huge, significant amount, right? Now, auditor comes to that gas station, and they study the system. It was year-end audit. So they came, they studied the system, and they identified that there is a mismatch of $58,000, right? So that person did what they, the person, the moment he identified that, he discussed with the manager, office manager, and the bookkeeper, and said that I have identified this discrepancy. Can you explain it to me? They said they are not aware of it. So he said, okay, it's a serious gap. So I will report it to the concerned authorities, and we may plan some action against you, right? So he left that place, and then he went to the concerned person, like the owner of the gas station, and talked about this the next day. And they said, okay, we'll be planning investigation, and we'll be taking up this matter, and we'll follow further investigation. But what happened in the meantime was this office manager and bookkeeper, they got a clue that this person will uncover this fraud, and we may have to face punishment. So they created a scenario. They set up the office on fire in the night, and all the records, all the systems and everything was damaged. All the evidence was lost. So you can understand it was a serious mistake at the auditor's end, that he conveyed this message to the perpetrator suspects that something will be done against this gap which has been identified by that person. It was not the scope of the assignment he was supposed to do, right? He was supposed to go there and prepare his audit report and come back. There was no point talking to the people out there, right? So this was a serious fatal mistake he did. Now, what we must learn from this, where auditor made the mistake? So there should have been a proper step-by-step activity which you should have done. Like first, identify the discrepancy and irregularity, which he identified. Then the next thing he should have focused on is review source document, other records relevant to the discrepancy, which he might have done, and he might have got a confidence that yes, there is a serious discrepancy and there is no support document for this much amount, which is a gap, right? Now, the point is, after that, you should employ other support evidence available, and you should do some additional surveillance about the suspects, right? And you must collect some additional information about how operation happened in that place, and provided this should have been done only if the party, the owner, asked you to do, because your job was to just go and complete your year-end audit. So you just do the audit, you prepare, you identify your findings and evidence, and take a copy of it and just go back and report to the auditee, instead of talking to the people out there. And you must not let anybody understand that you have come to know about the fraud and you are doing some fraud investigation, right? And the next thing is the interview of the suspect, and that should have been done after you have got a go ahead for forensic audit. And you have already done background check of those people, their lifestyles, and all the other analysis has been done, and you are having adequate instances and evidences that these are the people behind the fraud, and only then you should interview the suspects, right? So this is how this is a small example which can give you a clue that forensic audit is a kind of a assignment which is not exclusively related to high profile scenarios like online some frauds are happening. So your clients are there, right? You may have many clients and they are using all different kind of systems, right? Computer systems. So a computer crime or a financial crime can happen anywhere, right? Wherever there is a possibility of fraud, it will happen. It's just a matter of an opportunity for a person, right? The moment there is an opportunity for the person will commit the fraud. And it may involve some kind of digital evidence, right? Like the log in the computers or some printouts from the computer, right? And the logs in the printer, logs in the computer, or maybe some communication by some insider person with some outsider where he's sending mails and some additional information which may have led to the fraud. So there may be a lot of digital evidences involved, but don't get carried away by the technical aspect of digital forensics. Just understand, forensic audit is a process, and digital forensic and digital evidence is just one part of it, right? So there are a lot of opportunities for forensic auditors and forensic accountants. When you talk about forensic accounting, you are specifically talking about accounting related frauds. And when you talk about like digital forensics, you are specifically talking about the frauds where the evidence may be related to digital storage, processing, or transmission of some information which is related to the fraudulent activity, right? So the idea is you must understand there are a lot of opportunities because fraud will keep on happening, right? Because wherever there is a weakness, there is an opportunity, fraud will take place. And as technologies are getting complex, more advanced, there'll be more opportunities for fraudsters because users are not aware of the complexity of the technologies. So that's the last segment where I'll talk about that there are technologies which are going to disrupt our existing information systems, accounting systems, and other financial systems like artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence talks about automation of human intelligence. Now, how this works basically, we can train a computer for certain kind of operations, right? Let's say we are creating an AI-based software which will basically takes data and captures the data and performs operations, right? For example, a banking system is using AI for or AI-based software to process transactions like fraudulent transactions and all. So the point is, the person who is using this AI software, right, knows that this AI software will be able to detect fraudulent transactions and all. And if the person wants to bypass or wants to make the system or befool the system, what that person can do is may change the configuration of the software, right? So the point is, now as technology is evolving, now the frauds would be more sophisticated. So you need to understand how this technology works. So this technology works in a way that there is a software. The software is trained for certain kind of things. Like, for example, if your job is to identify fraudulent transaction, a software would be trained how to identify a fraudulent transaction. If the person who is training this software makes some changes, because he knows that this software would be attached to the banking system, so he may try to change the configuration that fraudulent transaction should not get detected or get caught. So you can understand that AI software accuracy of AI software depends on the training data, how the software is trained. Okay, if the training data doesn't have certain patterns of frauds, your software will never be able to detect that fraud. This is one aspect, right? So as an auditor, you must make sure that the softwares your clients are using or the technologies your clients are using are considering the risk of frauds, right? That's the role you can play as a consultant, as a auditor, right? And you can help your clients in selecting right technologies for their businesses, where you can help in minimizing the possibility of fraudulent incidents, right? And AI can be used as a tool also to investigate and identify fraud. But the organizations or the people who are using those tools within the organization may misconfigure them and may lead to fraudulent activities which may damages the system, right? So whenever you're talking about any AI-based software, idea is this software would be trained by some test data. That test data and patterns should cover all possible scenarios of frauds. If they are not covering, it means the software will not give you 100% accuracy or perhaps miss certain patterns, right? Then there is another technology called there's another technology called blockchain. You might have heard. Let me give you a clue about that. A blockchain is basically a technology which talks about how to store and process the data in a way that nobody can tamper that data. So yes, blockchain seems to be a technology for the future, where we can have accounting systems or record keeping system where nobody can tamper the data. I can give you an example. Let's say property frauds, where property registrations are done. So there are frauds where the same property has been sold to multiple people by forging the documents and creating false and fake documents, right? Now the point is why this fraud or such financial fraud is happening, because there are people involved in the whole process. Second, there are opportunities by which you can create fake documents, and there are opportunities by which you can tamper the data. Okay. Now, blockchain aims to eliminate all those things. Blockchain is a kind of technology where it focuses on elimination of human effort or human intervention in the transaction process. Right. For example, if a blockchain-based registration process is there of property, what will happen is all the verification of property, all the KYC, like you are a valid buyer, you are a valid seller, and whether the property involved in the transaction is a valid property or not, it is exactly owned by the person who is selling the property. So all these verifications would be done automatically by the integration of your blockchain system with the other systems, like for verification of your KYC, like PAN number verification, Aadhaar verification, it would be automatically done. So there would be nobody who will be doing this evaluation of property, and whether the loan is also part of this process and all. So all these verifications would be done automatically without human intervention. Now you would be wondering, sir, how is it possible? Because we have seen all these operation happening manually, and people are involved, and they may play in a bad way to commit fraud. But yes, it is possible digitally. But the only requirement here is that all these things which are required, like there should be a digital repository of all the properties available, so that you can verify every property and its ownership. So it means there are certain requirements that there should be a digital system of in place by which you can have direct digital transaction and verification process for PAN verification, Aadhaar verification, which are already there. The next requirement is there should be a digital system where you have all the records available in digital format, where it has the data of property ID, name of the property, address of the property, who owns it, from what time he's owning it, and what is the when it was registered, what was the transaction amount which was done, like at what rate it was purchased, and then other informations like the buyer who wants to buy this property, right? His background check, and the property is not a disputed property, and it is available, and it doesn't have multiple shareholders. Right. So all these verifications are only possible digitally if this data is available in digital format. Right. So the objective of blockchain-based system is to create a system where without human intervention, transaction will take place. right? And once the transaction has taken place, nobody can alter that data. So just imagine if you have these kind of systems, frauds will go down, right? But you cannot eliminate fraud. Why? Because the person who is designing this system may design it in a wrong way, may define the rules in a wrong way. Because in blockchain, what happens is there is a concept called smart contract, means how the transaction would be verified, how the transaction would be executed. If somebody puts a wrong code there, then it may lead to a financial fraud also. So it means as an auditor, as a assurance expert, your job is to review the blockchain system and identify whether all rules, validations have been included or not. So there are a lot of opportunities available from the perspective of preventive forensic audits. Okay, so your job is to study the system and their implementation so that fraud can be minimized. For that, you need to understand how these technologies work and whether they have been designed and developed in a proper way, right? So you have to make sure all compliance requirement, all rules which are expected from that system are being included in the software. Okay, so this is what we have discussed today. We have talked about all these things, and my suggestion to all of you is you must understand that fraudulent activities will be there. Okay, and your role in this whole domain is to be an active player who can help in minimizing frauds, and if fraud has taken place, in helping in investigating that fraud, right? Now coming to digital forensics, so the point is you must understand what a digital evidence is and what are the different kind of digital evidence that are possible and what are the technologies around that. So based on all these different possibilities, professional opportunities, you can take step-by-step activity and you can improve your knowledge base and skill set. So first you must understand what is a fraud, what are the different kind of frauds that can happen, and next thing is how they are happening. If you observe this, you can improve, you can help in improving the system so that these frauds can be minimized. For example, first thing is you like if you talk about denial of service attack, means your system is like for example, your client is having an e-commerce website and he's having good revenue and transaction volume through that website. One day the website was down, okay, and that day your client had to face serious losses because no clients were able to, your customers were not able to do transaction and place orders. So the customers were moving to some other websites, okay. So the point is nobody has intentionally switched down the servers. So why it happened? It's definitely something wrong has happened in the system. Now, this is an opportunity, okay. So you may have to investigate this fraud or perhaps this activity. It may not be a fraud, right? It may be a fraud, may not be a fraud, but how you will come to this conclusion? So you have to study and investigate this. Now, how you will study and investigate? You have to go to your system server and see the logs, okay? And during that observation, during the logs, you will see that what requests were initiated to your system. If your log is activated and recording all the requests which are coming, so there was a point where your server crashed, okay? At that point, till that point, what were the recent transactions or requests which were received by the server, okay? When you will go and study those transactions through the log, you will see that they are coming from different kind of IP addresses, or perhaps same kind of IP addresses, multiple requests are coming. So it clearly gives you a clarity that it's a kind of denial of service attack. Means there is an attempt of overloading the server so that the limit of the server reaches and server crashes. Okay. Now, what is the next step? You will get certain IP addresses. So you have to record those IP addresses and you have to plan your further investigation. Which computer, which server these IP address belongs to? What is the location of that server? And that can be identified by various web services. Like there is a website called Whois. if you put a IP address there or a domain name, you can get the details of like if let's say you want to see where the Google server is located, right? So you can write google.com in, and if the domain name is google.com, you put google.com in whois.com. So you put there and let me just show you a quick demonstration here will give you a lot of understanding about what I'm talking about. Just a second, let me just open that website, whois.com. All right. Okay, so if you, let me just share my screen to you so that you can also see. Okay, so this is a website, whois.com. So you can use it for initial investigation, like you want to get details of a particular IP address or a website. Let's say you want to study google.com, right? So you will search this. So now it will search it and will give you the details about, okay, a valid domain. Like I have to give a complete domain name. So let me just copy the URL, complete URL. And okay, so let me just put it there. Okay. What is this? This, oh, wait a second. I'm entering the data in the wrong place. It was for registration. So this is the address bar where you can put the domain name and it will study this and will give you the information of the domain. So it is the domain google.com. It is registered by this registrar, Mark Monitor Incorporation. So you must understand what this registrar is. This is basically a registration authority where you register domain names. Okay. And now this is the status of this domain. Client delete is prohibited. What are the configurations? Like they have restricted these operations: client delete, client transfer, client update, client server delete. Means if you go to this server, somehow you attack and you're trying to delete this domain name or some other things. So those things would be prohibited and you cannot get them. And then there are contacts detail available. Who's the owner of this domain name, right? And other details are there. Like you can see this when it was last updated, when it was created. Okay, and then this again the contact name of the people who has registered this, and then the location, country, origin, right? So this gives you a lot of information about that particular domain, right? And same goes with the IP address, because domain name is what? Domain name is just a textual name of some computer, right? It's basically a server machine where Google is running their website, and this is the detail of that server where this website is running, right? So same way, let's say if you get an IP address, you can put that IP address here and you will get here. You can see, read it, enter domain name or IP address, and you can get basic details about where this machine is located and origin and so on. So this is how you can plan. You must understand what the digital evidence is. And then there are different kind of tools available which will help you in planning your investigation and will lead to more information about how or from where the crime has been executed. So this gives this sum up my session, and my objective was to give you a basic understanding about why cyber forensics or digital forensics and forensic accounting is important. And there are going to be huge opportunities in the coming future, considering fraud is everywhere. Wherever there will be an opportunity, there will be frauds. So you should start your, practice of learning and upgrading your skills in this domain so that you can use these opportunities in helping your clients and take up professional assignments. Over to you, Gyati. If there are any other questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there are no questions. There were questions regarding tools, which you already answered. So we are left with no more queries right now. So we can conclude the session. It was indeed very insightful, sir. And the tagline you gave in the beginning, that fraud is everywhere, is very true. And you've also told us that as a chartered accountant, forensic audit needs to be initialized and the plan of action needs to be developed. We have to study different kinds of digital evidences, which can be in the form of files or logs. And then you have also updated us about the uses of digital evidences, sources of digital evidences, which includes mobile phone transaction logs, word processing documents, viruses contained in the macro files, or any random line through which a ransomware can be entered in the system, databases, or the repositories, audio files, or videos. And you've also told us that the data undergoes different stages, like on clouds, in paper forms, etc. Their users, about data undergoing some processes and data travel, digital forensics tools, and you have also guided us about the interview process, types of questions, and professional opportunities. So, sir, we really appreciate your command over the subject. It was indeed very knowledgeable and comprehensive session. I thank you on the behalf of the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board of the ICAI. So, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Members having attended today's session, you can claim 3 unstructured CPRs against this session. Also, in case you missed some important part of today's session, can be revisited anytime on ICAI TV. The recording of all the sessions by ICAI are being uploaded within a day on ICAI TV. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, DAB and all the people associated with the event. Thank you. Thank you very much.